I was only 4 years old in the summer of 1969. The songs of that era were the soundtrack playing on the radio as I grew up in the 1970s. I knew about Woodstock, of course, knew it was a big hippie festival. All the rock bands of the day played, acid and weed. It was a touchstone of cool to say you had gone to Woodstock. Still is. Woodstock was an extraordinary lineup. They were the best musicians and groups from a decade that produced revolutionary music. There were more young people than ever before, and the ideal being celebrated was peace and love, and 500,000 people came together and all those bands and legends played. I anticipate this event will be part reenactment and part memorial service.
All right, welcome to the big adventure. I'm just crossed the border, the Ivy League border crossing, Thousand Islands into New York State from Ontario, and I'm headed down to Monticello, New York, which is going to be my jumping off point for Woodstock, the Woodstock Festival. So I'm really excited. Actually going to be stopping off in Roscoe, New York. Roscoe is the closest town I can book a room in, actually, or any sort of space. Everything for quite a ways around Monticello and Bethel, New York, has been booked up. There's a couple of festivals going on. There's the festival I'm attending at Bethal Woods Arts Centre, and I think there's also another couple of sort of competing off books hippie type festivals going on as well. So what this is for me, it's not, I think it's more of a pilgrimage to see Ringo than it is to see Woodstock. I've seen Paul McCartney, and Ringo's the last, other than Paul, Ringo's the only one left, and I've always been a huge Beatles fan. It's been a big influence in my life, musically at any rate, and seeing Ringo it's going to be something special for me. That's what I'm pilgrimaging for. Being at Woodstock itself, which was also a touchstone in culture for peace and love, also is meaningful, and just to say you're there kind of thing. And Ringo, of course, didn't play Woodstock, but he's a Beatle, so he can fit in anywhere. I have a secret fantasy, I guess, that because we're only a couple of hours from New York City, so pretty easy transportation, because it's Woodstock, and it's a celebration, of hippie culture in the 60s. And because, Ringo's 79 years old, let's be honest, he's not going to have a whole lot of these performances probably left in him. I'm hoping Paul McCartney shows up. And Paul and Ringo played this year. There's some other event. They played a couple of songs. So, if seeing Paul and Ringo together, I may cry, and I'll try to capture that on camera. We're coming into the little town of Roscoe, New York, which is tucked away in the Catskill Mountains, the very beautiful and misty Catskill Mountains. Quite lovely this morning. Lovely Roscoe Motel. Let's see what they're all about. 16. Let's see what we got here. Let's see what the frequency is. I gotta go to the bathroom. We got a bathroom, that's the main thing. So now I'm heading into Monticello, which I guess is sort of the nub of things here, the center of the action. It's where I'm going to get my shuttle bus from, and maybe there's other options too, other Uber type options if I don't run into Katie. So, and I also want to get parking. Like, I'm just assuming, maybe I'm wrong, but I'm assuming that the whole situation, the whole traffic and parking situation is going to be kind of ugly. So I have my travel pass, so now I'm heading back to Bethel Woods. So hopefully we'll get in, we'll get a parking space. All right, so this is really well organized actually. This is cool.
The event itself is being held at the Bethal Woods Centre for the Arts. This is an amphitheater, performing arts center, and museum located at the site of the 1969 Woodstock Music and Art Fair in Bethel, New York. Located approximately 90 miles or about 140 kilometers from New York City, the 800-acre site includes a 15,000-seat outdoor concert venue, a 1,000-seat outdoor terrace stage, an intimate 440-seat indoor hall, and a museum. The grounds are a collection of food vendors, an arts and crafts pavilion, tents selling merchandise, beer tents, music performers. Prices are reasonable, it doesn't feel like a money grab. The original Woodstock site, the Natural Concert Bowl and Yasgur's Farm, is clean and unadorned except for the simple plaque at the bottom. Nicely mowed, there's a fence along the bottom, the purpose of which isn't immediately clear, but if you look at the old pictures, you can see where a fence was in the same place.
So you're at the site. I'm at the Woodstock field. You know, it's funny. I'm experiencing an emotion here. It's more emotional than I thought it might be. I didn't think it was going to be emotional at all, but actually it is. It's like a collection of Civil War veterans. You know, there's a lot of old people here with their original uniforms on. You can tell, like it's not merch. It's stuff that they've kept in their closet for 50 years. There was an old guy sitting there when I got here all by himself, and I went up to him and I said, "Hey, how you doing?" And I said, "Were you here?" And he said, "I was here right in this spot." And he got all choked up, and I got all choked up. And honestly, that was a couple hours ago, and I've been feeling this sort of emotion ever since. It's quite powerful. I'm not quite sure where it's coming from, because I know I don't have a big Woodstock sort of nostalgia thing, you know. I like the music and all, but I just came here to see Ringo, but it's turning out to be a fairly emotional experience for me. So anyway, that's good. It's good. $35 and it touches your heart. That's a good thing.
It's about 5 p.m. when the mounted security start rounding people up and herding them towards the pavilion. Lightning might be on the way. As luck would have it, Blood, Sweat and Tears was doing their sound check, so they ran through Spinning Wheel for the entrapped crowd. Eventually, the all clear was sounded, but by this time, there was jockeying for position for lawn space. It's a great venue. Capacity might be 15,000, and at least half of that must be on the sprawling lawn. There are no bad sight lines, and the sound is terrific. I love this venue. Blood, Sweat and Tears played here 50 years ago, but there are no original members on the stage tonight, although apparently Bobby Columby, a founding member and drummer, still owns the name and handpicks the musicians. They're all terrific musicians, and the lead singer Keith Peluso from the Voice TV show did justice to all their big-sounding songs. I guess they basically did their Woodstock set. I Can't Quit Her, Spinning Wheel, songs from back in the day. Nedgar Winter was a big hit. He played a few songs with his brother Johnny Winter at Woodstock, and they did one of them, Tobacco Road. His short 5-song set was perfect. I think he satisfied the rock fans in the audience. Played Free Ride, Keep Playing That Rock and Roll, Tobacco Road, Rock and Roll Hoochie Coo, and of course Frankenstein. You should really look up the video, the original video for Frankenstein if you've never seen it. It's cool to see him perform it. Ringo's All-Stars came on, and I must say, Ringo looked amazing. The guy is 79 years old, and he seems trim and fit and energetic. He looks and sounds exactly like Ringo. He sits behind a drum kit and plays, just like he did when he was with the Beatles. Now, I really like a few Ringo songs. Photograph is a personal favorite. And of course, Little Help From My Friends is an all-time classic. And seeing Ringo perform Boys is something I can tell my grandkids about, I think. Seeing Ringo is like seeing an apostle. His all-star band is tight. It comprises members of Toto and Men at Work, who share some of their hits. Greg Raleigh, who played Woodstock as Santana's keyboardist, sings Black Magic Woman and Oi Como Va. More amazing moments. And Ringo doesn't disappoint. I'll probably never see him perform live again, so thank you, Ringo.
So this is the Woodstock Wrap Up. I'm coming back now from my 24 hours at Woodstock. It's been nice to spend the whole weekend, I guess. I wouldn't have minded seeing Santana and John Fogerty, who I've seen a couple of times. I'd really enjoy. I would have liked to have stuck around for that, but I'm all by myself. What fun is spending 3 whole days by yourself? But I did enjoy my solo adventure to pay tribute to what Woodstock was and what it meant, and I guess its place in cultural history. But just walking around the grounds, seeing the sights, being there, hearing some stories. At one point, an old couple walked by, and the wife said, "Where are we going?" And he said, "To where we camped." And she said, "What?" And he said, "To where we camped." And it was kind of funny, a typical old person conversation. But on the other hand, that couple has been together for 50 years. They were at Woodstock, 50 years ago. And I think that's kind of special. Why do we always have to celebrate the anniversaries of wars or nationalistic events? Why can't we celebrate 50 years of peace and love, or at least the expression of that 50 years ago? It's worth maintaining, if you ask me.